Hello. Hi, folks. Welcome. I just got out of the shower. So, what a day. What a day. Welcome to my regular Monday live where we can talk about anything in American life, politics, what's happening around the world. Forgive the wet hair. I just came in from doing a ton of yard work and I had to get all the dirt and the pollen off of me before live. So I'm a little discombobulated. Welcome. And I'm sorry that I was late getting this live set up. So, welcome to Park Rose Resistance. This is my side channel for Park Rose Permaculture, and I try and talk about, things relevant to the American resistance against fascism. And look, I found my microphones. So a little bit of the reason things are kind of helter-skelter today is because, and the reason that I am, get rid of Hakeem Jeffries. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to slow down, take a breath. Part of the reason that things are like all over the place right now is that tomorrow we are sealing the concrete floor in my studio. Thank you to all of the people who really urged me to do that before the rain came back. And so we had to move everything out of my studio. It's piled in the living room and on my bedroom floor. And for the next week, I'm going to be filming in here because the floor takes, let me get my mic going. The floor takes 48 hours to dry, but it takes about a week or so to cure. And so I can't put my rug back down for a week. Can you hear me? Let me know. Yes, Gary, Indiana is still struggling. Thank you for bringing that to everybody's attention. Governor Braun is not offering assistance. Let me know if the sound is weird or what have you. I can switch to the fork, but I was hoping to knit on live. Thank you for bringing that up. I would like to talk about the Supreme Court ruling. So while my husband and some of my kids and I were getting everything cleaned out of the studio, I also had to clear a bunch of plants out of the way. And tomorrow morning is the day that our yard waste bin gets picked up. And so I had to make sure that it was filled up and out to the curb. So I was trying to get yard work done. And while I was, pruning back roses and pulling weeds, SCOTUS issued a really terrible but totally predictable ruling that they are not going to block Donald Trump's attempts to mess with the Postal Service and vote by mail. And I have not had enough time to sit down and read the full ruling. I likely will do that with my pre-law kid in a little bit here. My understanding is that they said the lower court did not have jurisdiction, but I also know I did have time to read Justice Jackson's scathing dissent. So, a lot of times I think people, I don't want to say a lot of times. I think sometimes we can still have false hope that the 6 justices on the Supreme Court will do the right thing, because rarely they do. And there are times that they rule against Trump. I think it's important to understand my understanding of Roberts in particular is that they don't give two flying F's about Donald Trump, right? What they care about is their Christo-fascist agenda. What they want is to make a king out of the president. They are committed to their unitary executive. And for Clarence Thomas and others, that allows them to get away with their corruption, right? But I think also for Thomas's wife and for Roberts, it allows them to further their ideology. And so sometimes they'll rule against Trump and people will be like, see, they're not biased. Well, they have no love for Trump. They have no loyalty for Trump. What they care about is their own personal agenda and how they can use Trump for that. Same as with Mike Johnson, right? Speaker of the House. And so when this case went up before SCOTUS, I kind of thought the ruling would come back on the side of Trump, because it's really on the side of denying the people their voice, or attempting to deny the people their voice in the midterm elections. And it's furthering their desire to create a king out of the seat of the presidency. So I don't think it has anything to do with Trump as an individual. Democracy Docket said a nationwide block remains. Yes, it's because my understanding is that they said the lower court does not have jurisdiction. A nationwide block remains. Yeah. Okay. So that's good to know. Hang on. Oh, can we jump into this? Okay, Ladybug, totally off topic, but my certified wildlife habitat sign came today. That's awesome. I think gosh, like small good things and like big good things are still happening. I'm sorry that my laptop is a little shaky. It's on a box of yarn on my bed. So every time I get excited, I shake my laptop. Uh, right, there are still good things happening. There are a lot of really good things happening. I tried to talk about this. Shoot, I can't remember if it's in a video that came out this morning or if it's coming out later today. But I spent most of Saturday not working, which is a rarity for me. I went to the farmer's market with my eldest kid and my neighbor, and I ran into some people that I knew at the farmer's market. I bought locally grown melons and some, tomatoes and some local sourdough bread. And then I went back to my friend's house, my neighbor's house, and she made chai and we hung out outside, her and her partner and Ruth and I, and we had like a lovely conversation and it felt like such a lovely reprieve. It felt like the before times. It felt like 15 years ago. Um and like pre-COVID, way before pre-COVID days. And I think it's really good to take time to like celebrate and honor those moments because like that's what keeps me going, right? I left Melissa's house and I was like, I feel so re-energized. Like I've been depriving myself of connection with my friends and neighbors in order to what, like read news stories? I don't know. And so I don't know. I think it's good. I think it's good to honor those other elements of life and not like completely get overwhelmed with all of this kind of content. And I know that people are really freaked out. I need to go read all the rest of the SCOTUS, the breakdowns from attorneys. Cause again, like I basically came in, I'm like covered in pollen and dirt. And I opened my phone and reshared some stuff on Blue Sky. And then I was like, I gotta get cleaned up before live. So I'm sorry that I haven't been able to totally get up to date on it. I'm also dealing with my tangled yarn. So everything from the studio, including all kinds of yarn, just got dumped in here. This is yarn that is vintage from the 1940s. It's wool yarn. I bought a box. Let's see, my eldest kid is 18 and I was pregnant with him. So 19 years ago, I bought a box of vintage wool yarn from the 1940s and none of it is rotten yet. So I'm still knitting with it, but it's all tangled. Okay. So I need to go read what Mark Elias said from Democracy Docket. That's definitely on my list of things to do. I call myself a centrist, but my center doesn't account for how far to the right is. I think for a lot of so-called centrists, they do account for that, and thus are righties. That's thank you for raising this issue because I saw a really interesting post. I don't know if I can find it later. I kind of wanted to like share it and offer some thoughts from someone who called themselves a moderate. And in the American political landscape, they truly are like, they seem progressive because the Overton window has moved so far to the right. And I find it interesting that there are people that like maybe we could be allies with, and they're using terminology that may be outdated. So we think that they're centrist or we think that they're moderate, but because our perception is so skewed to the right, that we don't understand the potential to ally with those folks, that there may be like on a global stage, there may be more centrist. There's not really like nobody in American politics is really very far left at all. Like just like DSA is just like a smidge to the left. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, I don't have Trish here with me today. So yeah, please don't forget to hit like and let me know if there's things that you definitely want me to touch on. I got asked thank you for following me on Blue Sky. I got asked if I would talk a little bit more about this thing with Jared Kushner and Hakeem Jeffries, because I've seen a ton of pushback from moderate Democrats and centrist, truly right, like establishment Democrats. I follow a couple of creators who I know work for the Democratic Party and I know have a very like rah Democratic Party position. Again, I'm a registered Democrat. I'm an elected official in the Democratic Party, tiny, low level, right? Precinct committee person. So like, I'm not opposed to the concept of the Democratic Party. I just want to push it to the left. But I have some friends, like mutuals on social media who are very, very much establishment Democrat types and like very, very loyal to the DNC. And they have put this spin on this meeting saying, well, Hakeem Jeffries, for people who don't know, by the way, I put a video out on this like maybe around midnight last night. Yesterday, the New York Times broke a story that Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, had a private meeting with Hakeem Jeffries, and Maggie Haberman was the lead reporter on it. and they were discussing how the regime and Democrats, when Democrats retake the majority, right, how they could come together and like find common ground. It's like, how do you find common ground with a fascist trying to destroy democracy? So obviously, when this story broke, the reaction from Democrats was not good, right? Jared Kushner has no official role in the federal government, but he is the kind of power player. I saw another, talking heads say it's very telling that Trump didn't send JD Vance to this meeting, who he doesn't give two flying F's about, and he knows that JD Vance like can't handle anything. He sent the guy who gets shit done, which is Jared Kushner, the guy who actually handles the money and makes the money and runs a lot of the corruption. He sent Jared Kushner. I think that that's absolutely a sign that the regime is very, very scared. They expect Democrats to regain control in the midterms, right? That they are sending Jared Kushner to parlay with Hakeem Jeffries says that they are expecting that they will lose big and that they're going to have to do damage control. And I understand why Jeffries would need to take this meeting from a political standpoint. But when you look at the reporting, it says that Kushner and Hakeem Jeffries have maintained a relationship since they worked together on a bill during Trump's first term, and that they're cordial with each other, and that their focus was going to be on affordability. How can they find common ground to pass legislation on affordability? It's also important to understand that Jared Kushner is super buddy-buddy with Bibi Netanyahu. When war criminal Bibi Netanyahu comes to the United States, he stays at Jared Kushner's house. Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump are the ones who purchased or attempted to purchase Sazan Island in Albania and convert it into a luxury resort, aka Israeli military base, right? It's a strategic outpost. Jared Kushner is also the one who wants to finish the job in Gaza and turn it into a luxury resort for the elites. Hakeem Jeffries is a proud, hardcore backer of AIPAC. So you can understand how they are aligned in really key strategic ways that do not prioritize the American voter and the will of the American voter, right? And how, right, like obviously I'm not surprised that they had a meeting with each other. The optics are really, really bad. And I think seeing establishment Democrats try and do damage control and be like, it's really important for him as a leader. This shows his strategery, his power, right? The Daily Beast put out a piece and said that MAGA is like super afraid of Hakeem Jeffries. No, they're not. He's very, very useful to them. And he's done very, very little to help the American people through this time. Jeffries is a disappointment. I agree. Jeffries has gone farther and farther right. The more AIPAC money he's taken, the more he's tried to climb through the leadership structure, right? Lest we not forget that for years, Hakeem Jeffries supported Medicare for all. But, as he started being groomed by Nancy Pelosi, and he started taking all of this corporate money and foreign money to kind of move up the ranks, his position fell into alignment much more with establishment, with the dark money that runs the establishment. So when I see, pro DNC corporate Democrats saying like, this is a brilliant move on Jeffrey's part because we have to find common ground in order to govern. Donald Trump and Jared Kushner have no intention of governing, right? You can't negotiate with terrorists, but also like you can't collaborate. You can't have across the aisle bipartisanship when the other side of the aisle is literal fascism trying to destroy the government. So I don't understand how Jeffries didn't anticipate that this would be a PR disaster. Jared Kushner is loathed by Democrats, actually like pretty universally loathed, right? He's seen as people know what he is. He's a billionaire real estate developer who wants to commit genocide so that he can build luxury resorts for Bibi Netanyahu. So, yeah, I don't buy the angle of like, this was such a good move on his part. This was so savvy on his part to take this meeting. It reminds me of early in 2025 when people said that Chuck Schumer was making really savvy moves by not having government shutdowns and then capitulating and playing, with the surrender Dems. So yeah, I'm sorry. I just don't buy it. I think it was bad optics. I think it bodes poorly for establishment Democrats, and it creates a huge opening for progressives to get control of the narrative. I saw some people saying that Hakeem Jeffries has to go as the majority leader and likely will be the minority leader and will likely be the majority leader. Even even Zoran Mamdani is still behind him, right? Jeffries runs unopposed in his district. He's very, very popular in his district. And he has the votes from Democrats, including progressive Democrats in the House, to maintain his position of leadership. And I don't think right now that that is a realistic goal to unseat him. He's definitely going to get reelected. And unless there are significant changes amongst the Democratic caucus, he's going to be the majority leader. But that doesn't mean that the party is not moving to the left, and it doesn't mean that his position is one that he can maintain in the long term, right? He came out against Medicare for all, something that would save, what is it, like 170,000 American lives a year would be saved if we went with Medicare for all. Working class people would save tons of money, and our health system would be much more stable and accessible. He came out against that. He came out against abolishing ICE. Now I think it's almost 51% of Americans support abolishing ICE, something like almost 80% of Democrats. And I'm going to get this number wrong because it's right off the top of my head. It's either 56% or 65% of independents, I have to go look that up, support abolishing ICE. So Jeffries is taking up these positions that the money that runs him, right? He took money from Palantir, he takes money from Israel, right? He's supporting the status quo in a way that is so disconnected from the electorate. It does not bode well for him. It does not bode well for the establishment portion of the party. Sorry to go off on that. Hakeem Jeffries is so frustrating to me because when it was initially announced that he was going to take over from Nancy Pelosi, that she was setting him up to be her replacement, I was like, this is exciting, right? We're going to have the, he was younger, more energetic. He represented the next generation. And I was a little bit optimistic. And so maybe part of my frustration is not only the ways he's not made the right moves, he and Schumer have not made the right moves, but the way he's behaved like the previous generation of Democratic leadership. He's not been the next new wave. He's just been more of the status quo. So yeah, I agree. Jeffries is untrustworthy. He's out for himself. And people will say, well, he just interviews poorly. He has flat affect. No, I'm not interested in his tone of voice. Look at how I talk on the internet, right? Like, I'm not interested in his tone of voice. I'm interested in how he votes and how he whips or fails to whip his own party. That's what I care about. I look at who he's taking money from, who he's taking guidance from, who he's having secret backdoor meetings with, right? That's what I'm looking at. Sorry, I keep shaking my laptop so much. Sorry about that. I agree they are controlled opposition. I completely agree with you. It doesn't mean that we have to have a party that permanently is. He's right in line with the new wave of right-leaning Democrats fleeing the Republican Party. Hang on a second. Okay, you guys are going to get... Sorry, this is going to be loud for a second. I have a swanky bed because I inherited it from my parents. So I have a hospital bed. My back is killing me from doing yard work. So we're just going to... Okay. Ignore all the pillows that are all crooked. Okay. So... I had the worst old Warren. So the mattress that I had before I inherited this from my parents, their 20-year-old sleep number bed, was my sister's hand-me-down mattress that she had from grad school. It had a big sunken spot in it. What a huge upgrade to get a bed where my back is not killing me. Yeah, I mean, obviously mixed feelings because I would much rather have my mother still here with me. But anyway, okay. So there have been a number of criticisms lately. I hope you guys can hear me okay. There have been a number of criticisms lately of a number of talking heads who, like the Bulwark and a number of their guests and a lot of the folks who are on CNN, who are former Trump officials or former Republicans. What's the name of that one guy who's local here in Portland? Who, their politics is coming to the forefront now because they are in many ways still Republicans. They're just not members of the cult of MAGA, right? And so they really want to push the Democratic Party to the right. What they want is for MAGA to be a fringe party, a fascist party, and then the Democratic Party to become the new moderate, sensible, version of the Republican Party. And it's interesting to see that tension, right? I agree that we should be allying with those folks to try and stop the fascists, but I think they really want to move the Democratic Party to the right because they want to reconstitute the Republican Party. And then you have the tension of more progressive members of the Democratic Party, right? There's 100 members, I think, of the Progressive Caucus. Add to them the rise of the DSA, which I think bolsters the progressive members of the Democratic Party, gives them the political capital to start to move a little bit further left or to be more vocal in their positions that are already more to the left. So you really see this tension, right? All of this power play. I think it's a really good thing. I think it's a really good thing. I wish we would stop calling it infighting. I wish we could understand that there could be multiple caucuses within the Democratic Party. There are multiple, right? There's the Freedom Caucus. There's all the nut job caucuses in the Republican Party. There's like 5 big power players. But in the Democratic caucus, we don't see that kind of wrestling with these issues to be good. It's always called infighting. And I think that it's actually really healthy, especially when we understand who is driving the desire for changes in the platform. When you look at the DSA, you see it's the people, it's like working class people who are driving it. Who's driving the Republican, right? The bulwark kind of trying to pull the party to the right. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that point up. The DNC needs to start voting blue no matter who when DSA candidates win the primary. Oh, yes, I totally agree. But I think there's another layer to it besides that, which is that you see the Democratic establishment. It's not just the third way, right? They're a PAC who their goal is to like pro-capitalism, right? Support dark money, what have you. It's not just third way. It's a number of these PACs that want to uphold the Democrats as controlled opposition. They want them to still be corporate Democrats. They spent tens of millions of dollars railing against progressive candidates, vilifying progressive and DSA candidates in the primary. And then when those candidates win their primary, then if they try and do vote blue no matter who, it's like, well, you just spent an absolute shit ton of money running ads that Republican and independent voters saw, framing that person as like a crazy left-wing communist, right? As like a fringe radical. And now you want people to vote for them. So when you're looking at like Abdul El-Sayed, all of that Haley Stevens money that was spent trying to make him look like a fringe extremist and low-key like tons of Islamophobic overtones, you can't undo all of that messaging, all of that energy that you put out. It's just such a huge waste of resources when the Democratic Party like doesn't have enough money, right? They're shooting themselves in the foot. So yeah, I think it's a problem. They're functionally in the primary running these kind of like intense campaigns against DSA candidates because they're more afraid of DSA candidates than they are of Republicans. They would rather ultimately they're spending their money in a way that says they would ultimately rather get Republicans reelected than have the Democratic Party move to the left, right? Their PAC spending, shitting on DSA, hands all their talking points to Republicans. I completely agree with you. Totally agree with you. But I think this is natural, right? I think these are growing pains. These are very normal things that we have to go through as a society if we're going to get this change. I don't believe in accelerationism. I don't agree with people. This is where like I clash with our leftists. I don't agree with leftists who said you can't vote for Kamala Harris because we need to try and force these changes. And the only way that establishment Democrats will, get taken over by the people is if we end up with a literal fascist, right? I'm not an accelerationist, not even remotely. I voted for Kamala Harris. I campaigned for Kamala Harris. I understood all of the ways she would have been light years better than Donald Trump. I also knew that if she got elected, people were going to be like, phew, this is over. Because that's what we did with Joe Biden, right? Oh, good. Those hard times are over. When people get what they want, then they don't push for larger reforms. This is sort of, actually, this conversation with my neighbor the other day. This is sort of why, like some socialists in the US don't want us to get more moderate reforms here, because then we will stop pushing for reforms and solidarity and significant change globally, right? If we are comfortable, then we start to just like check out of politics. And I knew if Kamala Harris got elected, there would be some of that. And so I think when we see some folks online saying like, this is really good that Donald Trump got elected because it is now causing the DSA to gain popularity, or it's pushing these real significant changes. It's pushed public opinion against AIPAC and against ICE. I don't really like that rhetoric because it implies that the people who are suffering now were like appropriate sacrifices to get political change. And I don't believe that I don't believe anybody's lives and well-being deserve to be sacrificed on the altar of politics, right? And so I reject the notion that the only way for us to get political change is by people suffering or by horrific human rights violations happening in front of all of us. I agree that that can bring about social change more quickly, but I'm not going to vibe with like, yes, let's elect a fascist so that people see the logical conclusion of where corporate politics has been taking us, right? Let's have this punctuated moment of, or years of extreme suffering so that we can get political change. I'm not an accelerationist, so I'm not going to get on board with that argument, but I do understand that like some of what is happening now, some of the activation of people is because they are suffering, is because things have gotten so bad. Yeah. So I don't know. Seeing some of my fellow socialist, well, I'm not a socialist, but seeing some of my fellow left, talking heads or even people in Portland like crowing a little bit now about like, see, this is what it took. I don't like that kind of determinism that the only way that we can get change is by having people suffer. I think that's like people maybe need to do a little bit of unpacking of their Christian worldview, the idea that reforms only happen, that corrective behavior only happens, that redemption only happens via suffering and punishment, right? Especially because, again, even more Christian, it's suffering by proxy. You want the poor, you want trans folks, you want immigrants, you want children to be your sacrificial lamb. You want them to be your Jesus Christ so that everybody in the US will get redemption and social change. I don't like that at all. Accelerationism is irresponsible. I would say this accelerationism is incompatible with humanism. It's incompatible with actually like with actual socialism and definitely with communism, right? I think it's incompatible with wanting to have real care for other people, with wanting to have solidarity with the most vulnerable. You can't have solidarity with the most vulnerable and support accelerationism because it's always marginalized folks. It's always children first, and then every other marginalized group quickly behind who gets thrown under the tank treads for your political vision. Yeah. Okay, catching up on questions. Sorry. Accelerationism has decelerated us back 100 years. Yeah. Burn it down because you think you can rule over the ashes. Can I talk about that for a second? Sorry, ignore my bubble water. I'm trying to drink a little bit less caffeine. I know bubble water is not super healthy. Sorry. This is what happens when you hit your late 40s. You really like bubble water. Okay, so hopefully my wet hair is drying a little bit here. My air conditioner is running. It's going to be really hot today. And I was trying to get all the yard work done before it got super, super hot. I'm gonna have to go do some more this evening. I'm looking out my window. Sorry to go on a tangent. Looking out my window and I have all of these ripe elderberries that I need to pick. I have ripe grapes in my front yard. I want to talk about it on Thursday because people aren't hitting my farm stand this year the way they have in past years, and I'm not sure what I'm doing differently. But food isn't getting picked up, and then I have like plums rotting in my farm stand, and I'm like, it's free. Come take this free food. So I'm trying to figure out a better distribution system. You feel attacked over the bubble water? My sister is 11 years older than me, and I used to make fun of her. When I was in my 30s, I would make fun of her for drinking bubble water, and now look at me. Yeah. I have a student that confided to me today that he used to be a bully and is changing that because he thought about how victims could have it worse at home. Wow. That is wow. That's a huge move for empathy, right? Like I think anybody's capable of cultivating empathy. I don't want to believe that people are a lost cause. Sorry, my wet hair is bothering me, you guys. I don't want to believe that anybody is a lost cause. I think everybody is capable of growth and change. Everybody. What can you do with the elderberries? Mine are ripening. So I have black elderberries here in Oregon. We can talk about this more on Thursday. I'm sorry to go on a tangent about gardening for a second. Here, blue elder are native, but I don't grow them in my garden anymore. I used to have a blue elder and it got cane borer, or actually came from the nursery with cane borer, so I had to cut it down. I have 2 black elders, and I make elderberry syrup. That's pretty much all I make with them. I know that there's tons of other uses for elderberries. Some years I dry them, and then you can use the dried elderberries to make syrup whenever you want. Sometimes I freeze them. They freeze really, really well, actually. Just so people know, if you grow elderberries in your garden, they have cyanogenic glycosides in them. So don't eat them raw or you'll make yourself sick. And don't eat any other part of the fruit except of the tree, of the shrub, except the berries. The fruit is the only edible part, right? None of the stems, none of the leaves, definitely not the roots, or you will poison yourself, like potentially badly. And you have to cook the fruit. But I usually make elderberry syrup. I actually really, really love the smell of elderberries. In the spring, elder flowers, I usually make a cordial, right? You can make fritters or a cordial with just the flowers. They're the only part that is edible besides the berries, but again, just for that brief period in the spring. This time of year, only eat the berries and only eat darkly ripe berries. Okay. Okay. Catching up. Sorry. Oh, berry only and cooked. Yes. Yes. I really like the elder flower cordial is super good if you it's good on its own with just bubble water, but it's also really, really good with a little bit of gin and, a little tiny bit of lemonade. Actually, you can make the cordial itself with lots of lemon in it, and it has that really good citrus and floral combination. Okay, sorry to go on a tangent about gardening. Do states run their own elections or not? How can the Fed take state elections? I want to do a video on this. Probably it'll be tomorrow, talking about what we can do if vote by mail is not reliable, because it doesn't mean that for states with vote by mail, we can't drive our neighbors to the drop-off box or have a community group of folks who ride the bus together or walk together to the drop-off locations, right? Usually vote by mail has other ways, usually at libraries or designated sites where you can drop off your ballot safely. Oh, it's good to talk about something else. Yeah, this is sort of where I'm at with not wanting to show clips of Trump and not wanting to talk too much about it. The USPS doesn't have the system in place to do what Trump wants. I agree. Yeah, Oregon is vote by mail only. And we've heard from our Secretary of State. I'm actually going to a meeting. Oh, you guys, I don't have the date in front of me. I'm going to a meeting with our Attorney General is doing a town hall, and I'm going to go to that, and he's going to talk about the midterms. I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say. Anti-Zionist is deemed in a recent British High Court ruling as not being anti-Semitic. I saw that. I think that's really, gosh, right, as a Gentile, I don't like to make a ton of videos about it, but I think as an ex-Christian, it's interesting to see how the bulk of anti-Semitic behaviors, hate crimes that are carried out in the United States are by Christians who overwhelmingly are Zionists who do not care about Jewish people. What they care about is their Christian eschatology, right? They care about their end times prophecies, and they're using the state of Israel, and the genocidal state of Israel is using Christians and their doomsday cultish behavior, beliefs. They're harnessing all of that to justify their genocide of Palestinians. But it's just feeding anti-Semitism, because evangelical Christians don't care about Jewish people. In fact, they believe that if Jewish people don't convert to Christianity in the end times, they'll be thrown in the lake of fire, right? So it's really about using the state of Israel in the hope of forcing the second return of Jesus. And I saw that a lot in our homeschool group, overt anti-Semitism, but this stalwart support for Israel because they care about the Christian end times. Do I like gooseberries? I do. I no longer grow them in my garden with the exception of one, because we have gooseberry sawfly here, which is not a huge problem. It's actually, they eat the leaves and you can just blast them off and the chickens love them. But we have the gooseberry maggot, the fruit fly here. The first 4 or 5 years of my garden, it wasn't in Oregon yet, and I grew an unbelievable amount of European currants and gooseberries, and I like to make gooseberry fool and curd. Oh my gosh, tons of currant curd. But now it's very, very difficult unless you net your currants. So I grow a couple black currants. I have one gooseberry, I have one champagne European currant, and one red European currant, but not very many. And you have to net them, or you will get or spray them, or they'll be wormy. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame we have the invasive gooseberry maggot now. Yeah. Also, gooseberries are really, really thorny, and so most of them. So just being aware of like how you use them in your design. I have the gooseberries I have are green, and I don't know the name of them because I got a cutting from somebody in the permaculture guild, so I don't know the name of them. Trump just got the Supreme Court to block. Yes, so they're not going to be federalizing the voting system. So I did mention this earlier in the feed. I just want to be really careful with how we're talking about the ruling, because I have not read through all of it yet. I'm not an attorney, but my understanding is that SCOTUS said the lower court did not have standing. So I think sometimes the headlines when it comes to Supreme Court rulings can be really overwhelming. And the narrow ruling based on some like very small, element of the law or case history, what's the word I'm looking for? Precedent can justify that ruling. And in the headlines, it's communicated in a way that's not necessarily accurate with what the details of the ruling are. So I don't want to talk about it too much more until I have time to unpack all of it. For folks who were late, I was out doing yard work until like 15 minutes before the live. And then I was like, oh no, I got to get a shower. And then I have to actually set up the live. And so I just had barely a moment to read through the cursory, like the Peace from Democracy docket. And that's about it. Okay, catching up. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I think I have some thoughts on Mark Elias, because I feel like there is no attorney who has been fighting harder against Trump and for democracy for years and years and years. There's no attorney who's been sounding the alarm more vigorously than Mark Elias. He's also the lawyer for the DNC. He's also the lawyer for the DCCC, as far as I understand, if he still has that role. And he's very much a centrist Democrat. And I believe he is, a lot of his politics are probably not aligned with mine. I think he's a really good example of how a diverse coalition can stand up to fascism. But I also understand that he is doing really good work in the courts. But I also think some of his headlines can get people really, really whipped up and discouraged in a way that keeps people coming back to his website, right? And that keeps people donating to him. It's really important that we do donate to him, but I don't want to say he's alarmist. That's not totally accurate. And I don't want to say that he has an agenda. I think his agenda is defending democracy against Trump. But I also think the politics he wants are far more moderate. And I also think that sometimes, I don't know, I think people can kind of freak out a little bit because he's handling so many court cases, and he's often partnering with Brian Tyler Cohen for videos, and Brian's videos are just like fear bait, rage bait titles lately that just make it sound like this is the most urgent, scary thing that's ever happened. And I'm not saying that this is a good thing. I'm not saying that this is correct, right? Justice Jackson, when I read her dissent, she is absolutely right. Like this is a huge violation. This is not in keeping with what the court should be doing if the court were functioning normally. But I also think that it doesn't mean the end of democracy. It doesn't mean that Trump is federalizing the voting system, and it doesn't mean that we can't vote by mail, and it doesn't mean that we can't win in November. I think it's just another indicator of like they are really, really, really desperate, and they are making brazen, bold moves to try to dismantle democracy and to try and institute a dictatorship in the United States, to dismantle elections, to subvert the will of the people. So the only thing that can counter that is the people exercising their power. And I think that should give us a lot of hope, because we are capable of stopping this. Like nobody else is. Ultimately, at the end of the day, lawyers do really good work slowing down the rolling of fascism. Like, that's great. It's unbelievably important that Mark has been doing that work in the courts. But ultimately, especially with the Supreme Court that we have, lawyers are not going to save us. Members of Congress are not going to save us. Attorneys general are not going to save us. They can be our allies and they can assist us and they can give us space to continue to organize. But it is the mass movement of the people to the ballot box and in the streets, right, that will stop this. So yeah, I don't want people to be really discouraged. I think they want you to be discouraged. They want you to think they're bold and brazen and therefore they will get away with it and you can't stop them. And that's not true. If we look at, maybe this is also where I think there's a lot of encouragement to be drawn from American history, because American voters have overcome greater voter suppression than what we have now to move for real change, right? It's not just like folks in Hungary. Sure, folks in other countries have had much more difficult circumstances under which they needed to make an election work and exercise their will, and they've succeeded. But even in the United States, in our history, Black voters, women voters, rural voters, right, working class people have been disenfranchised by the elites for a long time. Those in power have never wanted us to exercise our will. And yet we've seen, our foremothers and forefathers fight for those reforms, fight to overcome every obstacle. Actually, I have a video coming out this evening about, not to give away too many spoilers, but about the push, the emphasis on rights in this country, the attack on our constitutional rights, and how that's only been half of the equation. The other thing that we can and should be focusing on, sorry, I fixed my bed a little bit, is our duty as Americans, right? Like, we have rights and then we have duties, and they go together. And so what is our civic duty when it comes to defending democracy? And it's like, vote come hell or high water. It's like, no matter what, you will access your rights, you will defend your rights, you will exercise your rights. And that participation in democracy is requisite for it to keep functioning. So yeah, that'll be out later today. I'm really enjoying seeing people recapture that understanding, right? It's not just me and my rights, right? It's that reciprocal relationship. What's our duty? Yeah. Oh gosh, Melanie, thank you. I think of the book of Revelation. It says all nations on earth will turn against Israel. Now, I think this genocide against Gaza may be the reason why. Oh, so I'm no longer a person who like practices Christian religion, but it is interesting. I saw a British journalist interviewing Bibi Netanyahu, and he was complaining, right, like the whole world is against him. He's very unpopular. Their only ally is the United States. She's like, well, that's because you're genociding people, right? That's because you're committing atrocities, and we all know it. And so why would we ever want to support your government when you're doing war crimes, when you're like, you're leaving tens of thousands of children, maimed, tens of thousands of children dead, when you're creating orphans, right? Like, why would we support any of that? It's genocide and ecocide in the name of creating your ethno state. Of course, you're not going to create friends, right? And even the American people, it's only those in power in our government, those who are bought and paid for by AIPAC, who are still on the side of Bibi. The people are not. So, oh, hi, my husband's in the chat. Hi. Speaking of theology, bring in the guy with the masters. Okay. Check the box tomorrow. What are you talking about, Hubs? Did you watch the PBS NewsHour interview with the leader of the Iranian Guard? No, I did not. I have to look that up. Trisha, Mr. Baker, we got the whole gang. None of my kids, though. My second kid is still working on a paper. Ruth was helping move furniture. I think she's resting. Russia is the source of most of the world's geopolitical problems today in some form or another. I think they're a source of a significant number of them. I think the source, maybe, can we back up a step and say the source is fragile men, fragile, insecure men, because it's not just Putin, although I think he's bought, right, a lot of leaders and a lot of politics, because Bibi is not controlled by Putin. Saudi Arabia is not controlled by Putin. I think the problem is strong men. The problem is greedy, cruel people. And then that comes back to my favorite topic. It's how we raise children. What are we doing to our kids that we churn out people who are like this, who are so maladaptive? Those folks are responsible for their behaviors, but like Donald Trump was obviously abused by his father. So that doesn't diminish any of the harm that he's caused. He's an adult. but the way that we treat our children creates this continual problem. Politics is not moral. It never was. Could you expand on what you think about that? Thank you. By the way, I think politics can be ethical. I think that it's very difficult to apply our own morality to it in a system where, especially in a system where our politics prioritizes money, it's not going to be moral. My doc today wants to use AI. I want to change doctors. Here we have Kaiser, right? And they use AI dictation software to chart. And I'm not opposed to that. I probably should research it more, right? They ask you at the beginning of the appointment, is it okay if this AI software does charting for you? It saves physicians a ton of time. Who has access to that? And what does that look like when they're voice capturing what's happening? I don't know. I don't know. And then there's been some cases where there's been concerns that that might be a HIPAA violation, like who has access to that information. In the old days, that would have been really safe and secure, and I don't know now. AI could dictation software is a good thing. That should be a good thing. My kids who have dyslexia use multiple software programs that are essentially AI. They're not the same thing as like Claude or ChatGPT, but they're functionally an AI program, and that's accessibility software. So yeah, we could make it work for us, but we don't. It's run by the Dark Enlightenment guys who, want to bring about the end of the human race. That's what Hunter Biden said. It's really interesting to see Hunter Biden have kind of a renaissance, right? He's kind of an everyman, and I think the Republicans want to vilify him, and people instead kind of sorry, I'm counting my rows. People instead empathize with him. I think because a lot of us have family members who've struggled with addiction, and we've seen. Believe me, I'm not a huge fan of Joe Biden at all, but the way that Biden has treated his children has always been with dignity and compassion and respect, and I think that I've always seen that as a sign in his favor, right? So it's interesting just to see how Hunter Biden is just kind of a media darling. I don't know what people think about that. Hunter is base, as the kids say. Hunter is hunting them down. It's interesting that he's leveraged all of the ways that he was targeted by Donald Trump. He's leveraged it to, like, whether it's a personal vendetta or whether he's got some ethics or morals going on there that are driving him. I don't know, but he's playing a savvy game. He's playing a savvy game. And I think also just by nature of who he is, Republicans who still believe in Hunter Biden's laptop, they love to watch interviews with Hunter Biden because they're waiting for him to say something that they can be like, aha, here's evidence. And instead they get exposed to like wokeaganda. I don't know. It's interesting. Cocaine is a hell of a drug. Yeah, I know. I agree. Joe Biden really, really loves his children. I totally agree with you. And he, I think, has been a good example of unconditional love and support for his kids. So many things I do not like about Joe Biden. But nobody is like all good or evil, right? And it's Joe Biden passed a ton of really comprehensive environmental legislation that Trump has rolled back, but like it's never so black and white. Yeah. I had a fascinating conversation with Google AI Overview today about literature. I can see how tempting AI can be, especially when it flatters you. It's designed to flatter you, right? It's designed to keep you on the platform, to keep you using up your tokens or whatever. When Hank Green got busted for using large language model AI, he said it was seductive, that it flattered his ego. I think it is intelligent, but insecure people who, I mean, I think everybody's susceptible, but I think in particular, people who are not confident in their own skills and intelligent, who are susceptible to the flattery of AI, right? It wants you to stay on. So it says what you want. It tells you what you want to hear. It flatters your ego. It pacifies you. It keeps you engaged on the platform so they can make money. ChatGPT. I don't use ChatGPT, but I do watch that one kid. That I shouldn't say kid. He's probably like 30. I watched that one guy. Oh my gosh, I'm such an old lady. I watched that one guy who's always doing his bits with ChatGPT, and I think it's actually really illustrative of like how unhelpful ChatGPT is, which is why digital yes man. Yeah, I completely agree. Great comment. when you look at Linda McMahon, the education secretary, who's worth at least $3 billion, she's a billionaire. When you look at her being like, we're going to have your kids spend the beginning of their school day sitting down with headphones on, being trained by AI, and then teachers like passively receiving information from AI. I don't know if anybody else watched that interview. It made my blood boil. And then she's like, teachers can just kind of check in and make sure that AI is like training your kids right or whatever. Like, these are the same people who had an absolute mentee bee during COVID lockdowns about our kids doing remote learning and spending too many hours of the day sitting down inside on a computer on Zoom. But she wants your kids sitting down in front of a monitor with headphones on, being trained by AI for half their school day. How quickly, right? How quickly? The same effers who were calling, N95 masks face diapers are the guys who cover their entire face all day long because they work for the American Gestapo, right? Like, just but having your children, could you imagine what tremendous harm that would do to kids to have them be trained by AI all day long? Oh God, it's so inaccurate. AI hallucinates. It has no interest in pulling accurate information. And then who's programming the AI, right? Who's programming it? We already know that Bibi Netanyahu spent, what was it, $60 million, I think, investing in ChatGPT and other AI software, but particularly ChatGPT, so that when people type things into it, it will give a pro-Israel reply, right? If you ask it about what's happening in Gaza, ChatGPT and these other, I don't have a list of all the different companies, but they are programmed to respond to you in a way that is straight up Zionist propaganda, straight up Israeli propaganda instead of facts. So who's manipulating the way that AI responds to you? Who's programming it? Who benefits? Who benefits? It's so crushing to see this move for wanting to use AI in schools. I think it speaks to the commodification of our children's education. I think it speaks to the dehumanization of children. Kids are a product. Their attention is a product, right? If ChatGPT and Claude cannot be profitable on their own, they need government contracts to be profitable. Sam Altman wants Donald Trump to buy a fraction, right? He wants socialism for OpenAI. If they get contracts with public schools, that is guaranteed taxpayer money. That's all that grift, right? All that graft using our taxpayer money. So they have to say, well, we need to use your children so that we can extract your tax dollars as profit. Our kids are the ones who are being sacrificed in this scheme, right? And many such cases, right? There are always those who have sought to profit from our children through our education system. Textbook manufacturers are a really good example. All of the, food service companies that produce absolutely abysmal food quality for our kids while they are a captured audience getting school lunch, right? So many examples of for-profit capitalism commodifying our children's lives and existence while they are captured inside the public school system. Don't get me going on industrial education, you guys. I will go all day long, despite the fact that I'm married to a public school teacher. Okay. Let me catch up. Give us that link to your shop. Uh-oh, Trish, can you find it? Trish says, when I type in the chat, it's really, really loud on your end. So she said, don't do that anymore. Let me put it in there for you. Anytime she uses one of her phrases, I'm going to make sure to mention it in a t-shirt. Yeah. Sorry. I do like catchphrases. It's not intentional. I'm not in a position. It's bonfire. I think it's like bonfire. You know what? Screw it. I'm sorry. It's going to be loud for a second. Okay. Do. Hang on. Sorry, it's loud. I can't remember if it's shop or store. I'm getting there. Hang on. Oh. So I was, so all of my kids are home right now while I'm looking this up. All my kids are home right now. And Ruth was like, I want everybody to watch this movie with me. We're going to have a family movie night. Okay, here it is. Sorry. She's like, we're going to have a family movie night. And so we don't have a TV. I posted about this on Blue Sky. We don't have a TV. And so we put a shoebox on a footstool and a laptop, and we watched Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. which, not to make everything about Medicare for all, but like these two guys, they spent like 20 years making their hilarious comedy sketches or what have you, and they played the long game on some of them. I was like, look at the things you can do when you have universal health care. You can be like, you can dedicate your time to your weird art, your weird comedy, and not have to worry about getting a real job, right? How much space that allows for creatives if they live in Canada. Sorry, they're Canadian and have universal health care. Ruth, are you in the chat? I don't know. I don't know where she is. Is Ruth in the chat, Case?
What?
Is Ruth in the chat? Party. Oh, okay.
Sorry. We're getting ready to leave in a few minutes.
Okay. You guys.
Looking for Ruth.
She's upstairs, I think. You guys are. How many of you are you taking? Sorry.
I'm gonna find out if Ruth's going or not.
Okay.
She said she might.
Is B going? She's doing paper.
B's doing her paper.
Casey and Hal have Magic the Gathering tournament, and I'm trying to figure out what other children they're taking with them, because it's not, school hasn't started for any of the college kids. They have like a little couple week break, except for B, who's finishing up her law paper from her study abroad. They do Magic the Gathering on Monday nights. So universal health care is a duty of care for any nation, right? Just it also just makes your country more stable, more prosperous. It doesn't make sense to me to not provide universal health care. Again, but that's because like I'm a military brat, and the military functionally has universal health care. And so I don't know. I mean, my parents were Republicans, but my dad was always a supporter of like, why don't we have socialized medicine? He's like, we have in the military, we have Medicare. Why don't we have socialized medicine for everybody? It did mean, right? It did mean I'd have to see doctors who I didn't know, or I didn't get to pick my own doctors. Wait, give me a second, you guys. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go make sure. Hang on a second. I gotta yell at these guys. Are you here? Yeah. Okay, I'm going back on live. Sorry. Okay, sorry. Touch and base before they left. Okay, sorry about that. Do the weird art. We highly encourage it. Absolutely. Thoughts on the Canadian trade war? Thank you for asking that question. I am throwing my yarn around the bedroom. For people who are really late or came on later, not really late. Whenever you show up is totally fine, you guys. I'm sealing the floor in my studio tomorrow, and so I have to film from in here because everything has been taken out of my studio and piled in my bedroom and in the living room. So it's a little bit helter-skelter, a little bit of a mess. Since it's Resistance Day, there is a darkness reaching like rust into everything around us. We let it grow. Now it's here. It's here and not visiting anymore. It wants to stay. Ooh, thank you. Thank you for that. I have not seen Andor yet. I haven't seen it yet. And everybody says that it is one of the most motivational and inspirational things that they have watched. And it's gotten a lot of people to like believe in their capacity for resistance. So I need to watch it. I know Ruth would probably want to watch it with me. Gosh, also, well, this is a really good point too. I'm going to get back to the Canada Day thing in a second. Hang on, let me scroll back up to your comment. Hang on, cooperate with me. Sorry, Richard. Darkness reaching like rust into everything around us. Gosh, okay. I think this speaks maybe a little bit to that permaculture concept of retrofitting or like regeneration instead of burning everything down, right? I think about how when my grandmother passed away, she had a farmhouse. She had two houses next door to each other in Indiana, like run down old farmhouses, and they were filled to the gills, and she was a hoarder. And my parents inherited all of her cast iron, which was just rusted all to hell, right? She was eating like, I don't know, cold cereal and microwave dinners. I don't know, you guys. And how they were just like covered in rust. And there were so many cast irons from the 30s, like really good ones. I don't know if you guys have like newer cast iron. Newer Lodge cast iron is complete crap. It's really textured. You can't get that smooth surface. Cast iron from the 30s and 40s is so good. It's like butter, this smooth, unbelievable, fantastic surface. So I love me some old cast iron. But we got all of these that were just like absolutely covered in rust. And my dad and I set up one of those electrolysis isn't the right word. Is that the right word? Those boxes where you put the electrodes in and you would just draw the rust off over several days, right? You have your tank, and we just saw like all of the rust would come off, and then you just use like a little bit of oil and a little bit of steel wool at the end, and those things are like new. I should go grab you some of them. Show you. Unbelievable. Just regenerate what looked like it was complete garbage, right? So I don't know, your analogy about rust reminded me of that. Like you can rehab anything that's super rusty, right? It doesn't mean it's the end of everything. It just requires that effort and that time to come and remove all of that rust before it infects and like rusts everything all the way through. Yeah. Thank you. That was a really clumsy analogy, but thank you. Thank you for letting me stumble through that. You need to watch The Children of Men. Austin, it overlaps with so many themes. It's about fascism, climate change, infertility, and hope. Okay. I think Casey is probably seeing it. I'm making a note on my phone. Hang on a second. I'm going to make sure I get it down because otherwise I will forget. Thank you for that suggestion. Oh, Casey has seen this, I bet. I have not seen it. It's Clive Owen. Thank you. I will try and find that. Thank you for that. That movie is peak. Okay. You guys, I am a little bit of a Luddite. I don't actually really watch many movies. And like I said, we don't have a TV. So there are a lot of movies I've missed. But if you point them out and they're good, I will find them and watch them. Your hippie lesbian magazines were so informative. Thank you. I have so many thoughts on them. I feel like for people who don't know, on my main channel, I was talking about Country Women magazine and their thoughts on labor and money and work and organizing society, these hippie back to the land women. I would love to do like a whole podcast series. I actually want to try and find the lady who sells her old back issues to this little shop in Fort Bragg. I want to reach out to the shop and be like, would you be willing to connect me with her? Because she is one of the hippie commune women who like contributed, and say, who owns the rights to these? Could we get them republished? Could we like reconstitute a new generation? Because think about the 70s, like the oil crisis that was happening then, the way that people thought nuclear war was still coming, right? They understood we were reaching peak oil. The economic circumstances were really, really bad. Women had the right to vote, but like women, when Country Women magazine started, women couldn't have credit cards. Women couldn't get their own bank account very easily. Just how different things were back then to what most of us have known in our adult lives, but how much it's becoming like it was in the 1970s in significant ways. So I find those magazines really, really interesting. I would walk over broken glass to vote in November. I think that has to be our attitude. I do not care. I do not care what they put in my path. I will be voting. There are 5 voters in this household, and we will all be voting. I would stand in line all day. We all should be willing to give up a day of work. We all should be willing to do whatever it takes to get to the polls and get everybody else to the polls. Absolutely. That's part of that like duty, right? It's our obligation. We have to participate. Democracy only works if we participate in it. And that if we decide that people who are going to try and dismantle democracy are not going to get their way, we have to be really, really stubborn. We have to have that kind of fuck you, make me energy. I will be voting. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Thank you for my Canadian trade war strategies. Okay, so Trump wants to do tariffs on Canada again because he's big mad, and I'd love to see Canada like pushing back, being like, "Well, you know, America's our next door neighbor, but the federal government is not our friend, right?" I don't know if you mean strategies for Canadians or for Americans. I think Canadians can always show solidarity with the American people by not buying imported American goods. Make every decision Trump makes an economic stressor, right? Do your own little embargo on Americans. It hurts us personally, but it's, I think, showing solidarity with us, right? Prioritize purchasing Canadian goods and not American goods. Especially, I saw that Canada is thinking about doing their own kind of embargo on products produced in Republican states. And I think that is an interesting strategy. I understand that there is absolutely just and harsh criticism of that, because there are, in every single state in this country, there are people who did not vote for Donald Trump. No child voted for Donald Trump. Southern states that are all red, that's where most Black Americans live, who voted overwhelmingly for Kamala Harris, but they live in gerrymandered states where white racists control the electoral votes. And so I understand that there are negative consequences for red states. I don't think as an overarching plan, it really works to try and punish red states for the circumstances that we're in. Like, more people in California voted for Trump than did in like Arkansas or Louisiana. But because California is so populous, we think of it as a blue state, but that's not true. Same thing with Oregon. Like, anybody outside the Portland metro area and Eugene and Corvallis, even in those areas, voted for Trump, even though our state went blue. So punishing people in that way doesn't work, but I think strategic economic sanctions from Canada, I think that that's showing solidarity. I think that's different than wanting to hurt blue states. That's a tactical choice to put economic pressure on Republican centers, right? I totally agree with that. I think Canada is handling Trump very well, right? I think their leadership knows what they're doing. I think Trump is likely going to taco again. I think the consequences of tariffs are going to be increasingly high costs for us. One of the big things that's really hurting us with tariffs from Canada is so much of our lumber now is imported from Canada. It's really killing construction. I've seen contractors talking about how the two biggest hits to them are their skilled workers are being abducted by ICE, and then lumber is so freaking expensive because of what Trump is doing to our relationship with Canada. I think it's going to hurt us. I think that pain is probably necessary, and I do not begrudge anybody in another country for refusing to buy American right now. And I think Trump may taco. I think when we're looking at all the tariffs, right? Did you guys see how like Amazon and Walmart are getting huge amounts of this like tariff reimbursement money? That's never going to come back to us. It's going to go to these big corporations. It's just a graft. Like all of it is, how do we take taxpayer money? How do we take the American taxpayer paid $1,500 or $2,000? Trump loses in court. All of that tariff money has to get refunded. It does not get refunded to the American taxpayer, even though we paid the tariffs. It goes to these big corporations. Ugh, terrible. Could it be argued? Oh, so maybe I'll take like 5 or 8 more minutes. Is that okay? And then I have 2 videos coming out, one on each channel. Could it be argued that patriarchy or matriarchy is a false choice? And there are very egalitarian societies like the Paraha tribe. Not matriarchies. Okay, so I realized, it gets people really riled up. I think this is, somebody in my comments said, Angela, I'm concerned about you using the term matriarchy because people don't have a shared understanding of what that term means. And that goes back to the point that I'm always trying to make, and I was not following my own rule, which is that first we have to establish a definition of a term to make sure that we have a shared vocabulary. And I think a lot of people see patriarchy as just the opposite of a matriarchy, right? So patriarchy is oppressive. Matriarchy would be the same oppressive system just run by women, right? They think it's like girl boss feminism. And matriarchal societies don't operate that way. And so I think a lot of people are tempted to take the patriarchal hierarchical framework of oppression and apply it to a system where women would control the way that society is organized, or have the organization, the skills, and the capacity to organize society, right? And I think that that's a false premise, but I understand why people want to do that. They're still taking a patriarchy, they're just switching the genders, right? And a matriarchy isn't like that. A matriarchy is not a hierarchy. I've heard it described many times that a patriarchy is a hierarchical system with men at the top, right? White men at the top, because patriarchy and white supremacy in the United States, right, buddy? Rich white men, because adding capitalism, but okay. Pure patriarchy. Men at the top, followed often by adolescent boys, right? Followed by adult women, followed by children. Under a patriarchy, you get dehumanization the further you move down. You get control and coercion by men at the top as you move down. And the patriarchy ultimately hurts men as much as it hurts anybody else in the system. because it is hierarchical, because it is about control. But a matriarchy is often described as being circular, and children are at the center, right? So it is a way of thinking that is not hierarchical. If you look at matriarchal societies, it's not like women dominating and having control. I think the way I understand a matriarchy is prioritizing the social structure that women have always created and fostered, which is family centered, community centered. It has that like people care aspect to it. And so I don't mean girl boss feminism, right? I don't mean having the idea that like you just have women take over the patriarchal structure. Patriarchy is not about men. It is a system of oppression that hurts men, right? It tells men that they are better and they should be in control. I think when you look at a matriarchy, it doesn't have that same setup, but I understand why people think that it does. So maybe I need to rethink my terminology, right? I think it's hard to say egalitarian society. I think instead of matriarchy or a patriarchy, we need humanism. Somebody in my comments, not on that video, but on another one a while ago, said, "What would it look like if we rejected matriarchy or patriarchy and we decided that we were going to support all people, or like have all people have an equal voice in government?" And my immediate response to that is like, well, what about children? Children are the only group in American society that doesn't have representation in government. And children often have to pay taxes, right? No taxation without representation, but children in our society have no representation, no voice in government, which if you look at the list of UN human rights, right, representation in government is something that that's a human right. We don't extend that to kids. What would it look like if we had children participating in government, if children were allowed to vote, right? Anyway, yeah. Vatriarchy. I love that. Okay. So yeah, I think maybe I should be more, I should find an alternate term, but I like the idea of centering the way that, that women who are caretakers and organizers who have historically prioritized the well-being of children. I think that that's really good. Maybe there's a better term than matriarchy, because I think men bristle every time I use that word because they think it means women take over the patriarchal system. They think it means girl boss feminism instead of liberation for everybody. Yeah. A beehive cooperative is like a matriarchy. Yeah, except you know what? Early on, I made a vest. I'm putting in my cabinet where I have all my knitted woolen goods. I originally used the beehive analogy to talk about our collective power. We're like worker bees, and we can ultimately exercise that collective power, like right, one bee sting versus 60,000. And also using that analogy to talk about how if the queen bee pisses off all of the workers, they just kill her. They just replace her and kill her. Oftentimes, like I'm a beekeeper, and oftentimes the queen gets replaced and you don't even realize it, right? You have to put nail polish on her or a little bit of there's like a safe marker. I use nail polish, whatever. You mark the queen bee, you'll come back and the nail polish will be gone. It's not because they cleaned her. It's because they killed her. They replaced her with it. They're like, we don't like this. We don't like this lady. And the workers somehow decided she's not doing right by all of us, or her offspring are too cranky, or she's doing something wrong. We're going to create a new queen cell. We're going to feed it royal jelly, and we're going to kill the queen once that new one hatches. I kind of liked all of that analogy. I stopped using it because workers kill all the drones, right? Sometimes you'll go out to your colony and there'll be a dead pile of bees. Those are all of those drones who served their purpose of mating with the queen. And then they're like, please let us back in the hive. And the workers are like, you have no role here, right? And then they'll kill them. So I don't believe that men only serve the purpose of like facilitating procreation. I think that men have a vital role. Like men should be equal members in society. So I stopped using the bee analogy because I realized it had its limitations, but yeah, but whatever. Okay. So matriarchy traditionally means protecting the vulnerable and working cooperatively. Thank you for saying that so much more eloquently than I could. Completely agree. Matriarchy is this circle. It's cooperative instead of hierarchical, but I don't think that it's perceived that way. I think it's also the same reason that a lot of people who don't understand feminism are really upset by it, because in the US, we have toxic individualism that has fostered girl boss feminism, which says, I'm just going to succeed as much as I can in an extractive patriarchal system. How do I maximize, right? This is like when people laud Oprah Winfrey, right? They're like, oh, she's arrived, she's a girl boss. Or like Gwyneth Paltrow, who calls herself a Republican, right? They see women achieving wealth and power and they think like she's succeeded in a man's world. That's feminism. That's not my understanding of feminism. Feminism is wanting liberation for all women and girls, and it's actually ultimately wanting liberation from everybody, like for everybody, excuse me, from the patriarchy, including boys, including men. Yeah, my kids are yelling in the other room about it. Okay. I'm concerned. Let me take 2 seconds and finish up the last couple questions here. I'm concerned Hakeem Jeffries will pull a Merrick Garland and stop or delay investigations. Oh, I'm yes. They don't want meaningful reforms, and he's trying to make affordability the focus. We can't have affordability as long as there is unbelievable corruption in our government. We'll never have affordability as long as Project 2025 is being enacted, because they want to break everything and make nothing affordable. So you can't have bipartisanship. Hi, B.
Hi, guys.
Did you say hi?
Hi.
Hi. She's jet lagged.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get your paper done?
I didn't.
I'm sorry. Do you want help?
I got it.
Okay. I'm sorry. Girl, it's brutal. The jet lag is brutal.
I just feel like I'm dead.
You feel like you're dead? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
My new roommates messaged me.
Wait, I'm on live stream. Do you want to talk about your roommates on live stream?
No.
Okay, let's wait. Okay. I love you. I'll be done in a second.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay.
Are you getting pizza tonight?
They're going to get pizza, so I don't have to cook because it's going to be 90. Talk to Dad. Okay. I'm leaving everybody hanging. Okay. Sorry.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I went for fish and chips because
Wait, you want to come tell people real quick?
everyone was like, "Oh, fish and chips is the one good food in England. It's British. The one good British food." Well,
It's fish and chips.
They lie.
What do you mean? Where'd you get fish and chips? I had the best fish and chips
I know you did.
in London. It was huge. Fish and chips in London was like a giant fillet and like an obscene amount of chips.
It was at. I don't want to say the name of it.
Don't. Yeah.
I don't want to hurt a small business, but it was not good. And I just got chips because I was gonna eat my friend's fish.
Yeah.
If chips were rank, it's like they didn't ever change the oil ever.
I'm sorry, girl.
It was a bad experience. And also, this is the other thing. Oh God.
You're beautiful. Come, you can sit here.
Apparently,
You can sit here.
all of this like soda and sugary drinks have stevia in them.
Mm-hmm.
They have like a sugar restriction.
They do have a sugar restriction.
It was horrible. I love sugar. It gets me through the day. So sugar restrictions, salt restrictions, as if their food needed any less seasoning.
So you had a good time in the UK, but the food was not your favorite part, except for the Indian food was amazing.
Maybe it was good. I went to Vietnamese a lot.
Yeah.
Saw good Vietnamese places.
Okay, bye, B. I love fish and chips too. She's so tired. Okay, sorry about that. I totally lost my train of thought. Can we leave it there? Is that okay? I went almost 20 minutes over. I'm going to go finish editing videos and get them out. I have 2 videos coming out, 1 on each channel. I don't know if I'll film anymore today. I have a ton of work that I have to get done on my computer. And I'm grateful that I have to cook dinner. My husband is going to get takeout pizza on their way back from the Magic the Gathering tournament. I definitely appreciate the feedback. Like, I appreciate people being like, hey, maybe your terminology is off. Hey, maybe you're not being consistent in what you're saying, right? So thank you. Thank you for people who give that feedback. I really love the back and forth in the comments. Like, I don't always bristle at people having a different take than me. I know sometimes I can be defensive because if you say something about me that's not true, I'm not going to take it lying down. But I don't mind people having a different perspective or a different way of looking at things. So I do want to be more cautious. I don't want people to be turned off from Angie Nixon because I was like, she embodies for me what a matriarchy should be. That's more about the way that she's so intentional in trying to care for immigrants and trying to care for children and the policies that she wants, right? It's more that I want people to see women leaders, especially like socialist Black women leaders, as understanding the way that we organize society so that we all get our needs met and we have a good quality of life, right? UK does have a sugar tax. That's good to know. Seattle has a sugar tax. Oh man, you guys, brutal. Yeah, I love Angie Dixon. Oh my gosh, you guys, take 2 seconds and go like look up her speeches online. She is so powerful and so legit and just, oh gosh, yeah. I'm excited about this new wave of folks that are either progressive or democratic socialist or working families party, right? I am a big fan of the working families party, and they caucus with Democrats. These folks run on the Democratic ticket. They are driving the way the Democratic Party is moving. I think it's really, really encouraging. We've had a stagnant Clinton era elite Democratic Party since the Clinton years, right? And we're getting change, we're getting reform, and that takes time and that takes people mobilizing. But like, look at all of these fresh voices, people who understand the moment, they understand the needs of the country, they understand working class people, and they're being platformed, they're being their positions and their ideas are being presented to millions and millions of people. I think that's so encouraging, right? We're seeing a breaking of the siloing of that information. Socialist positions are no longer seen as fringe. They weren't seen as fringe in the United States in the 20s and 30s, right? We had a lot of socialists in this country. It's only because of the Red Scare, and that's been very much vilified. Like, so much union organizing, such a long, proud history, New Deal politics in this country, being able to recapture all of that and evolve it for the times that we're in and like take and expand upon those really good ideas so that we get prosperity for us. I think that's so good. It's really, really encouraging. So, yeah, okay. I'm going to leave it there for now. Thank you. Thanks everybody for hanging out with me. Thank you. On Thursday, I will be live on my main channel and we will talk about gardening, whatever you want to talk about having to do with permaculture. We can talk about lesbian, hippie, feminist magazines, but we can also talk about gardening. So thanks for being here with me. I appreciate you guys. Take it easy. Stay cool if you're in Portland, and I'll see you Thursday.